Mechanisms of consciousness, which we do not yet understand. Consciousness, the intangible yet undeniable quality of awareness that permeates our existence, remains one of the most profound mysteries in philosophy, neuroscience, and human understanding. It is through consciousness that we experience the world, think, feel, and perceive reality. Yet, despite centuries of study and reflection, its true nature continues to elude us. It is as if we are standing at the edge of a vast ocean of thought, unable to fathom its depths, but forever drawn to its mysteries. What is consciousness? How does it arise from the complex interactions of neurons in our brains? Is it a purely biological phenomenon, or does it touch on something deeper, something transcendent and beyond the material? These questions have inspired countless theories, but no single answer has managed to encompass the full breadth of what consciousness is or how it functions. In this exploration of consciousness, we will delve into the known mechanisms, the gaps in our understanding, and the philosophical implications of what we do not yet grasp. But, as with all great mysteries, we must embrace the possibility that we may never fully understand the inner workings of our own minds. The hard problem of consciousness. To understand the riddle of consciousness, we must begin with what philosophers call the hard problem. This term, coined by philosopher David Chalmers, refers to the challenge of explaining why and how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experiences. How does the firing of neurons result in the sensation of pain, the experience of color, or the feeling of joy? We know that the brain is an extraordinary biological machine. It processes information, controls our bodily functions, and reacts to external stimuli with astonishing speed. But understanding how neurons interact, how synapses transmit signals, and how electrical impulses flow does not answer the fundamental question. Why does any of this result in consciousness? Why is it that we are not simply biological automata, responding to the world without awareness? This hard problem separates consciousness from the mere processing of information. It is relatively easy to explain how our brains allow us to see light, recognize faces, or move our limbs. But it is much harder to explain why those things feel like something, why they are experienced by a conscious mind. This divide between the physical workings of the brain and the subjective nature of experience represents the central enigma of consciousness. And so far, no scientific theory has been able to bridge this gap. The mystery of subjective experience. What is it like to be conscious? This question forces us to confront a deeply philosophical problem: the nature of subjective experience. Each of us has our own unique perspective on the world, shaped by our memories, emotions, and thoughts. The inner landscape of consciousness is filled with sensations, images, and desires that are invisible to anyone else. You cannot feel my pain, and I cannot share your joy, except through imperfect words and expressions. This individuality of consciousness makes it profoundly mysterious. Even if we were to perfectly map every neuron in the brain, we would still not be able to explain what it is like to be another person. This has led some to wonder whether consciousness is an irreducible phenomenon, something that cannot be fully explained by science alone. Philosophers have proposed different ways of thinking about subjective experience. Some argue for qualia, a term used to describe the unique personal sensations we experience, such as the redness of a rose or the taste of chocolate. These sensations seem irreducible to mere physical processes. Others suggest that consciousness may be a fundamental property of the universe, much like space and time, a concept known as panpsychism. According to this view, consciousness may be present, in some form, at every level of reality, even in inanimate objects. Though these ideas remain speculative, they highlight just how elusive the mechanisms of consciousness are. Science has made tremendous strides in understanding the brain, but it may be that the true nature of subjective experience lies beyond the reach of empirical investigation. The role of the unconscious mind. While consciousness represents our active awareness of the world, much of what happens in the mind occurs below the level of conscious thought. The unconscious mind plays a powerful role in shaping our behaviors, decisions, and perceptions, yet we often remain unaware of its influence. This introduces yet another layer of complexity into our understanding of consciousness. Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, famously described the mind as an iceberg, with the conscious mind representing only the small portion visible above the surface, while the unconscious mind lies hidden beneath. Modern psychology and neuroscience have revealed that Freud's metaphor is strikingly accurate in some respects. Cognitive processes such as memory retrieval, emotional regulation, and decision-making often occur unconsciously, and only the results of these processes enter conscious awareness. Why, then, are we not fully conscious of all our thoughts and actions? What governs the boundary between the conscious and unconscious mind? Neuroscientists have discovered that various regions of the brain work in concert to create our conscious experience. But why some mental activities remain inaccessible to our awareness is still unclear. The interplay between conscious and unconscious processes is one of the great mysteries of the mind, and understanding it may hold the key to unlocking deeper truths about how consciousness functions. The problem of free will. Consciousness is intimately tied to our sense of self and agency. We believe that we are autonomous beings, capable of making choices and influencing the world around us. Yet the question of free will, a concept closely related to consciousness, has perplexed philosophers and scientists for millennia. If our thoughts and decisions arise from the activity of neurons in the brain, is there room for free will? Are we truly the authors of our own actions, or are we merely following a script written by the laws of physics? Neuroscientific experiments have suggested that decisions may be made unconsciously before we are even aware of them, raising uncomfortable questions about the nature of our autonomy. But consciousness seems to rebel against the idea of determinism. We feel as though we are in control, that we possess the ability to choose. The tension between our subjective experience of freedom and the scientific evidence for determinism is one of the most profound mysteries of consciousness. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about what it means to be human, consciousness, and the brain. A puzzle yet to be solved. For all our efforts to understand the brain, we are still far from comprehending how it generates consciousness. The brain's complexity is staggering. It contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each of which can form thousands of connections with other neurons. These connections create intricate networks that process information and generate the experiences we call consciousness. However, we still do not fully understand the binding problem: how the brain integrates sensory information from different regions to create a unified, coherent experience. Nor do we understand how the brain's electrical and chemical signals give rise to the richness of conscious thought. Despite advances in neuroscience, the mechanisms that underlie consciousness remain shrouded in mystery. Some have suggested that quantum mechanics may hold the key to understanding consciousness. The theory, famously associated with physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, proposes that quantum processes within the brain's neurons may be responsible for generating consciousness. While this theory is highly speculative and controversial, it points to the possibility that consciousness may be linked to fundamental physical processes that we do not yet understand. The future of consciousness studies. As we look to the future, The study of consciousness remains one of the most exciting and challenging frontiers of human knowledge. Advances in neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and quantum physics may one day provide new insights into the mechanisms of consciousness, but it is also possible that we will never fully understand it. Could it be that consciousness is a phenomenon that will always remain beyond our reach? Is it possible that the mystery of consciousness is simply too complex, too entwined with the very fabric of existence, for us to ever unravel? Perhaps the true value of studying consciousness lies not in finding definitive answers, but in the exploration itself. Consciousness forces us to confront the deepest questions of existence. Who are we? What does it mean to be aware? And how do we fit into the cosmos? In seeking to understand the mind, we are engaging with the essence of what it means to be human, embracing the mystery in the end. Consciousness remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of the universe. The mechanisms that give rise to our awareness, our thoughts, and our sense of self are still hidden in the depths of the brain, waiting to be uncovered or perhaps forever shrouded in darkness. But there is beauty in the mystery. Consciousness is, after all, the very thing that allows us to wonder, to question, and to search for answers. It is the spark of awareness that makes life rich with meaning and complexity. And perhaps, rather than seeking to solve consciousness, we should embrace its mysteries, or they remind us that the universe and our place within it is far more profound and wondrous than we can ever fully comprehend. In the search for understanding, it is not always the answers that matter most, but the questions themselves and the journey they lead us on.